You're listening to the Southampton Delivery Podcast, a podcast dedicated to the Southampton Football Club and all of the SFC fans.
If you want to have guarantees, you have to buy a wash machine.
Fonte with a scooping header.
We don't lose a match, either we win or we learn. And today we learned.
It's infield to Mane, 25 yards out. Lovely ball for Bella. Onside, 1-0. Buffon shot. Oh my word!
Unbelievable. We ran around the pitch like Bambi on ice. It was very, very embarrassing to watch.
And now, your host, Matt Markstone.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Southampton Delivery Podcast, a podcast and newsletter dedicated to the Southampton Football Club and all of the SFC fans. Available right here on southamptondelivery.com. My name is Matt Markstone. I am the host of the show. No matter where you are, no matter how you may be listening, whether this is your first time or you've been here before, thanks for making the show part of your day. I hope that you enjoy it. And let me just set up this week's episode and say that, you know, I got out of bed before the sunrise on Saturday morning. I was not home, but I made my way downstairs in the hotel, out into the streets as the sun was starting to come up, and I was headed to a place where I could take in some of the Saints game, I hoped. And you know, as I got nearer, the glow of the screen kind of caught my attention. And as I turned and looked, I saw somebody, for lack of a better term, I saw some defecation. And I'm not talking about Alex McCarthy's goalkeeping for the second goal. I'm talking about an actual human being defecating on the sidewalk. The glowing screen was the glow of the ATM that I wanted to use so I could get money, so that I could get coffee. But he was instead using that space as his throne. It was only later that I saw then Alex McCarthy's goalkeeping and some of the other highlights from the game that luckily this week we don't have to talk about, because Saints did not get the job done, obviously. Not a great game for them. And that's kind of been the way it's gone at West Ham and against West Ham over the past couple of seasons. I've seen it in person. It doesn't look any better there either. For anybody who's listening outside of the UK and who wasn't able to make it, you definitely had a better view on TV than you get from the upper section of the London Stadium. But anyway, that's done, because we're not going to talk about that this week, because sometimes things just don't go to plan. And unfortunately for Saints, that's what happened. And hopefully we move on. We learn. There are lots of things that we can break down, but we're not going to do that this week, because I'll be honest, I didn't see all of the game because I was just not able to do it. And that's just the way some things go sometimes. But the good news is that we do have an episode this week, and it goes back to a bit of a happier time. On this week's episode, I have Curt Supple, who is on Twitter and Instagram at Curt Supple. He's a U.S.-based Saints fan out of Florida. And over the Christmas period, he flew over with him and his wife. They went to Stamford Bridge. They went to St. Mary's for the Crystal Palace match. And he managed to see Saints win away. He saw also us get a point at home, which is not necessarily all that common. It was only a draw, but hey, it was still a point. And so we have some good things to talk about. So when he got back from his trip, I was able to catch up with him a little bit and chat through just the logistics of the trip, everything from, you know, becoming a Saints fan to kind of some of the other things that he supports and what role kind of sports plays in his life. And you'll learn about him as we go through it. And then we'll get into the actual trip, what it was like to see the pitch, and we'll kind of walk through all of that stuff. So maybe a bit of a happier time. Really, really nice for me to be able to talk to Curt and for him to share his story with us. And I appreciate it. I hope you appreciate it. And maybe given the way Saints played this weekend, this will just be a bit of a pick me up, you know, somebody who's really excited about the team and excited and also was able to be excited about what he saw on the pitch for the most part. So that's what we'll do this week. Once again, it's Curt Supple. You can find him on Twitter and Instagram at Curt Supple. And that is what this week's episode is. I hope you enjoy it. We'll be back with the normal, regularly scheduled program, you know, next week after Newcastle, which hopefully goes a bit better than our trip up there earlier this season. But besides that, if you are a U.S.-based Saints fan, the second annual U.S. of Southampton FC get-together, watch party, whatever you want to call it, is happening in April 4th. So about a month from now, Saints fans from all around the country and Canada too, because we're not going to exclude you, will converge on Fado's Irish Pub in downtown Chicago to watch the match against Watford. It should be a 9 a.m. kickoff if I've done my time zone conversion correctly. And lots of other things are planned for the weekend as well. But that is the location, Fado's Irish Pub. That is the date, April 4th, and that is the time. I believe it's 9 a.m. So if you want to be a part of that, there are details over on the U.S. of Southampton FC Facebook page. There's a link to that in the show notes. RSVP, let them know you're coming if you want to come. If you have questions, you can ask me, and I will direct you to the right people, because I don't have all the answers, and I don't exactly know how to describe to you how to get in touch with them, but I'll send you a link because that's what I can do. So that's what we're doing this week. We're talking to Curt Supple about his trip. We're going to forget about West Ham for now, and we're going to get ready for the second annual U.S. of Southampton FC watch party, get together, whatever you want to call it, at Fado's Irish Pub in downtown Chicago for the Watford match on April 4th. So hopefully those are some things to get excited about, even if West Ham wasn't one of them. And at least nobody's defecating on your ATM. At least not now. All right, let's get to it. We'll talk to you on the other side. So I'd like to welcome to the Southampton Delivery Podcast, Curt Supple. You can find him on Twitter at Curt Supple and also on Instagram at Curt Supple. Very nice that you have a name that allows you to get all of the handles without having to put 5,000 digits at the end of it. But just went on a Saints fan, or lived in Florida, went over to the UK and saw Saints away at Chelsea and home to Palace. Here to talk about the trip and talk about the matches and all of that stuff. So Curt, thanks for joining the show and welcome.
Yeah, Matt, thanks for having me. I'm really excited about this to get on here and talk about our trip. Spread a little more news about the Florida Saints fans around here, and just catch up with another Saints fan and talk about one of my passions.
Yeah. I should say, are you from Florida, or you just live there now, or what's the deal there?
Yeah. So I'm actually, probably one of the few that's born and raised here in Tampa, Florida. We're mainly like a transplant state, so we have a lot of people, from New York and Chicago areas, those Midwest and Northeastern folks normally come down here and move down. So, but yeah, I'm one of the few that's born and raised here.
All right. Well, so you got the Lightning, the Rowdies, the Rays.
Yeah, exactly. The Bucks. Yeah.
No basketball though, right?
No, the closest for that is Orlando.
Okay.
But, I was kind of a fan of them, I guess, in the 90s, the Penny Hardaway, Shaquille O'Neal days, but yeah, I haven't got over there for a while.
I remember there was a period of time where I sat down, I'm pretty sure I was an adult, but it was like, I'm going to choose, can I consolidate my teams? Because the Astros were in the NL Central, so I wasn't seeing them very often, and I don't really like football, American football that much, but the Buccaneers are my team, for the NFL. And nice. I don't really like basketball at all. So it was like, well, I know that the Tampa doesn't have a basketball team, but I could support the Lightning. That's fine. And I just eventually just settled on just stick with the teams you have. You're spread out across the U.S. You just deal with it, and that's okay. So, but I do have some love for the Rays.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, with you being an Astros fan, we have a lot of similarities as how the organizations kind of approach the game and the league and everything. So
yeah, you guys don't hit trash cans though. Unfortunately, but the best part about that is that the Red Sox were just found to be doing the same thing, and that's the team my brother supports. So I'm very happy with the fact that it's not just my team. It's a widespread issue, I think. But
right, yeah. As is most of those things, once it's found out that somebody's doing it, I'm sure it's not just isolated.
I think back when I was playing daily fantasy baseball, Ben Zobrist was the secret weapon.
Oh man, yeah, love that guy.
Yeah, it was just what was Joe Madden gonna do with a lineup that was always it's kind of like Pep Guardiola. Like there's always changes. How do you make sure they're in? I don't know. I love Joe Madden as well. So, but yeah, enough of that. I guess my real question here is like, where does the soccer or football like come in to your life as somebody living in Tampa, Florida? Are you a Rowdies fan, or was it just like high school or earlier than that, or like when does that happen?
Yeah, I mean, I'm currently a Rowdies fan, but yeah, I mean, growing up and everything like that, I never played soccer. I mean, I still have never really played organized soccer or anything. Just maybe just kicking the ball around with friends or whatever. But growing up, I mainly played baseball, basketball, a little football, like American football. I've always watched pretty much every sport, though. Kind of just been a sports nut all around. But yeah, I mean, I guess I didn't really get into soccer until it was like the '06 World Cup when I was in Germany, just because my high school had a foreign exchange student that was here from Germany and kind of got, joined our group of friends and was always talking about, the upcoming World Cup and Bundesliga and everything like that. So kind of got into that World Cup, watching that. And then from that, kind of first started watching or keeping up a little bit with the Bundesliga. But I mean, from that, it was still, '06 or whatever. So the coverage around here for soccer, I guess in general, wasn't that crazy. I mean, even for the Premier League, I guess we had like that. I guess it was still like Fox Sports Soccer back then or something like that. But yeah, I mean, outside of, a random fan or friend, that was a Manchester United fan or something like that, I didn't really have a whole lot of Premier League exposure, I guess, outside of playing FIFA or something.
Yeah, I think that plays a big role because the coverage of football here or soccer was almost nothing. Occasionally you could see a big team, you could see Man United, you could see Arsenal or somebody like that play, but the idea that you were going to get like the chance to watch whatever Premier League team you wanted was just not a thing. And I have to say, like, personally, I took like German in college. Like German history was like part of my major. Like had the coverage of the Bundesliga been better in the United States, I probably would have watched the Bundesliga over the Premier League without a doubt. But the coverage was, like you said, was so poor that there just wasn't the chance to watch that. And I wanted to watch something more than just Bayern Munich, once every 3 weeks.
Right.
So yeah, I totally get that. Even though I didn't even I came even later than you did just to football in general. So, I think one of my first experiences with football was going to a Real Salt Lake game, and then also just watching the U.S. men's national team play with like 1,000 other people, just in a room where they like kind of changed our lunchtime around at a conference or at basically a work conference, and we just watched the game together, and that was really cool. So, but yeah, from there, like, how did you come to choose Saints as the team from all the teams that were there? And sometimes people have like a family connection or something like that, but for me, I didn't have that. But what's the story for you in terms of how you came to choose Saints as the team to follow?
Yeah, no family connection for me either. And I guess it was kind of more just out of like, didn't want to support one of the big teams. I didn't want to be someone that just came and jumped on the Man U bandwagon and Arsenal or Chelsea or any of those teams. I didn't want to be like someone from England coming, and starting to watch the MLB here and just jumping in and liking the Yankees or something. So, yeah, I mean, I think it was kind of a mixture of things. I remember, I think when I was in college, I read a book called Bloody Confused by Chuck Culpepper. I don't know if you've ever heard of that one, but he was, like a kind of disgruntled sports writer here in the States that was kind of, yearning for something else, kind of getting tired of the personalities and everything of our sports here. And I think he ended up in London. He actually ended up becoming a Portsmouth fan. I think because he had like a connection to Portsmouth, Virginia. He's from there or something. But that was, when they were in the Premier League and everything. So I think from reading that, there was some mention of Southampton in that book. And along with tons of other teams, big and small London teams that he was running into fans, as he was on the tube all the time. There was like mentioning Brentford and, some of those other smaller teams. So I think, part of that and maybe them being considered like the villain, is always, kind of drew me to them a little bit. But then, as I was watching more and more soccer or at least keeping up with it a little bit more, I also, liked watching Gareth Bale and, hearing like Theo Walcott and, everyone knew who Peter Crouch was because of, how tall he was and everything. And just hearing, all these players that at one point, either came through the Southampton Academy or played for Southampton, just kind of kept coming back. And then I think even thinking about it, like geographically, Southampton was in the, southern part of the UK, here in Florida, we're in the southern part of the UK. I think, I already mentioned, the youth academy and stuff, but their use of those youth players and bringing them up kind of was similar to the Tampa Bay Rays here, which is my MLB team. We're always using our farm system and everything to bring through, young, good talent through the minor leagues. And then, again, another, kind of similar characteristic with the Rays is just, being like a small budget team that you kind of have to be creative with, how you go about winning games. So kind of all that together kind of got me to say, yeah, I'm going to go with Southampton. And I think that kind of coincided with, with them coming up into the Premier League and with also like NBC Sports buying out the Premier League rights. So all of that kind of just like worked out great because, once NBC bought that, it was just awesome to like be able, to watch any game you wanted on any, Saturday or Sunday, for free at that point. Now it's not even bad. I think I pay whatever, it's $40 for the whole season, which I can watch, any game on the weekend.
Yeah.
So I pretty much, I'll watch whatever. I'll wake up and watch the 7:45 game on Saturday and whatever 10 a.m. game, the 12:30, I'll pretty much watch all of them if I can, whatever's on. But, for the cost of one ticket, basically, if you're going to go to a match, you can watch anything. So
I'm 100% there with you on that because we'll just put games on all day long while I'm doing stuff around the house. I go to bed to go to games every single night almost. I just put them on just to hear the noise and go to sleep. So I'm with you. And some of my reasons for gravitating towards Southampton are pretty similar to yours, and especially when you start talking about the use of the farm system and the young players and how the Astros, who now have a fairly big budget, but for a long time were working, through other means, basically. I appreciate that very, very much. And I guess, Tampa is not considered to be a large kind of it's not a big marketplace for most of the teams that are there. I don't think the Lightning or the Buccaneers, typically spend a ton of money. They're not considered, like, players don't look to go there because they're going to be in the limelight. And I think Southampton is kind of, probably like that as well. It's a Premier League team. They're top division teams, but it's not, it's not New York or it's not London, and it's not like some of these other places where, the stars are, I guess, every season in and season out, I guess, or year after year. So I kind of understand that. But I guess for you, like, you growing up in Tampa have this kind of thing where you still can support your hometown team kind of through most of the major sports in the United States. And so I guess what's it been like to now support a team that is, an ocean away from you versus a team that's kind of in your own backyard?
Yeah. It's definitely different, and, like you said, yeah, it's nice to have the teams right here and, be able to go to whatever matches I want, if I can afford it. But yeah, it's definitely a little bit different. I think just the coverage of English soccer and, maybe just European soccer in general is just a little bit different. Like, I feel like the writers and stuff don't have as much access. Like, a lot of the transfer stuff now is just like all rumors and stuff. So I think just all of that is just like so much different than American sports, where I feel like we just have like so much more access. Like, we're right there in the locker rooms, and everything, and we're pressing the coaches, like questioning all kinds of players and coaches. So I think just all that's just so much different. But yeah, I don't know. I still I love it.
Yeah. The coverage was a huge difference for me because it took me a long time. I grew up kind of trusting, sports writers and I guess the names that were associated with stories and interviews were always like, I watched ESPN so much that they were always kind of, I knew who the people were that were writing the stories and doing the interviews. And then when you go over to England, it's just it's these tabloid kind of papers that are putting stuff out constantly. And it's like, you have to your guard has to go up a little bit in terms of what you read, I think a little bit more. That was hard for me to adjust to in the beginning.
Yeah, at times, it feels like with these transfer rumors and stuff, it's just they're kind of just throwing everything at the wall and see what sticks. If they happen to be the first one that mentioned it, then great. But if not, it's not like they're really going to get held accountable for it, I guess.
Yeah, I hate it, but I hate a lot of things that other people like, so that's okay. You mentioned kind of a little bit about a match day, but do you generally watch matches on your own or at home, or do you? I think it's Matt Newhausen also lives in Tampa or is from Tampa. I don't know if do you ever see each other, or is it mostly just an individual kind of thing?
Yeah, most of the time I just watch here at home. I think part of that's just due to it being, in the morning.
Uh-huh.
Maybe it's even earlier for you out on the West Coast, but, there are some, for the bigger teams, I know there's some supporters groups here in Tampa, I know Liverpool has one, and I know somebody who's also a Rowdies fan that is in the Tampa Spurs group. So, but yeah, I didn't, I don't know Matt personally. I heard him whenever he was on your podcast here. So, we follow each other on Twitter and stuff, but we actually haven't ever met up. But yeah, maybe we can start a little Tampa Saints group or something if we can get something going here.
Yeah, it is always weird because you start the Premier League in USA is I've worked with them in the past, and they say where are the Southampton fans, and I go, well, there's there's 3 in San Francisco, there's 8 in LA, and they're just like, what, like that? I'm like, that's as much as we can find, that's where we're finding. They're kind of here and there and spread out across the state. I know there are quite a few. Looking at the statistics for the podcast and stuff, there are some in New York and Pennsylvania and other places, Michigan, but it's hard to find a concentration of 10 to 12 people that'll get together every week to watch a game. So I think when we were in the EFL Cup final, I just chose to drive to LA and happened to go to a pub that was a Man United pub, but there were 7 Saints fans or 8 Saints fans there watching the game. And so I kind of still talk to those guys, but they're spread out all through LA, which is a huge place. So they don't get together all the time. So it's definitely different because it's not the bar was full of Man United fans, full.
Yeah.
It could not fit anymore. And it's different, supporting a team that's like Southampton, where you don't necessarily have that, which I think is better because everybody's got a little bit of a unique story about how they came to the team. It's not just, oh, I saw them on TV and liked them, Yeah.
Even if in that situation you were at, there was 50, 100 Man U fans, but, I'm sure they were all coming and talking to you guys about how did you guys pick Saints and how did you guys end up here?
Yeah. That was it. And there was one guy in the entire bar who demanded they change one TV to the Real Madrid game, and they put it on mute, and nobody talked to him. We were more popular. They all enjoyed giving it to us as the game went on, but we, gave it right back, and it was a lot of fun until the end. But whatever. So I guess let's talk a little bit about your trip. You guys, you and your wife, you headed over for the Christmas period. You were there during, part of the busiest time of year for the team, but also a time that is, I guess, hectic in terms of traveling because there are still things that are kind of shut down because it's Christmas and people are doing other things. But I guess where did the idea for the trip come from, and was it always going to be that kind of football specific? Was your wife in for this, or was that you were going on a trip and then also you were going to see some football?
Yeah, I mean, we were kind of started throwing around some ideas for, the Christmas and New Year holidays, just because, as we get a little bit older, Christmas doesn't mean all that much to us as far as when it comes to like the presents and all that type of stuff and just stressfulness of it. Our brothers and sisters and stuff are starting their own families and kids. So, and actually my brother and sister-in-law were actually already going to be out of town for the holidays. So we kind of thought that maybe opened the door, gave us a little leeway, to kind of do our own thing this year. So, because, as I've heard you on some of these podcasts, I'm a bit of like a Christmas Scrooge myself, where I'm just like, I don't care about the gifts, all that stuff. Like, I'm more about, let's just get, the family together or whatever. That's why I've kind of always been more of a Thanksgiving person myself too. But
see, I'm not the only one.
So, but yeah, I mean, we threw around a few different ideas. we're looking at going to London for a few days, then Paris or something, and then maybe even like trying to throw in Brussels or something, because the Eurostar can take you, between those or whatever too. So
yeah.
But kind of as we looked into it a little bit more, I think at that point we were like, I was going to fit in one game, either the Boxing Day game or the Palace game, and then as it got a little more plans, we were just like, let's just do the whole week in London. I think even my wife maybe even brought that up, and inside I was just like, ecstatic, because I figured, I can try to sneak in another game here and get both of them in. But I wasn't going to be the one that brought it up. So yeah, but I mean, she definitely knows I'm a bit of a sports nut. Before we got on here, we were talking that I was a Florida State graduate and big Florida State football fan. So, I mean, even she's been on plenty of football weekends with me where we make the 4-hour drive up to Tallahassee and stuff for the weekend, and, might go up one night and go to the game and then drive back, or something. So she's put up with that for me. And we've, had other trips where we've gone to an American football game or something, or, I went on a trip for my birthday a couple of years ago to see the Bucks Packers play at Lambeau. She stayed home at that time, but or like my bachelor party we went up to New York and did like the Belmont horse races and stuff. So that was pretty wild. So like I said, I can watch anything. So huge sports nut. So she was like definitely cool with it. But we had plenty of, major attractions and things that we did in London and stuff as well. So.
Yeah. And I remember you reached out to me just to see, and I think you reached out to other people as well, just to see if you had any tips for finding tickets. And I think I told you part of the story. Like I didn't have a great time getting tickets. If it wasn't for Freddie and a couple other guys associated with the Ugly Inside, like I would not have gotten them because my tickets kind of fell through, even though I had arranged them through somebody at the club and everything else, but it doesn't matter. But so what was that like for you? Because I don't think I was very much help, but you wound up with tickets both to Boxing Day and then also to Palace at home. And I think people maybe would have told you Boxing Day away, Chelsea away, maybe not so easy to get. Palace at home, you'd probably be okay. But how did it work out for you?
Yeah, like you said, I tried to reach out to some of you guys to just get your thoughts on it, or I didn't know if there was any kind of like secondary markets like we have here with like StubHub or SeatGeek or something like that. But yeah, I mean, I remember, how we kind of mentioned Matt, the other Tampa Saints fan, I think he had some luck where his girlfriend or something had kind of reached out to the club. So I think I've even tried to do that, try to like fish for a little, maybe they'll hook me up with something, but I didn't really get like any response from them, which was fine. But I did, reach out to the Saints ticket office, exchange some emails with them. Even, called over there a couple times, like leading up to when the tickets were about to go on sale. And yeah, I mean, kind of like you said, they were all saying, the Chelsea tickets are probably going to be tough. Like they're never going to reach the general sale level, but they were like, Palace, you should have, no problem with that. But yeah, I mean, I think overall that whole ticketing process of buying tickets, was totally different than it is over here too.
Yeah.
But I think they do it right, in a way, because they do, obviously if you're a bigger supporter, you get the higher membership, or you go to a lot more games. I think it's right, that you should get some priority, over whoever else. But yeah, I think it was I think the tickets for the Chelsea match went on sale. It was like that Monday of the week of Thanksgiving. Uh-huh. Yeah, because I think it was about a month out. So I actually woke up first thing that Monday. I think the ticket office opened at 9 a.m. So it was 4 a.m. here, and called over, and I was just like, hey, what do I need to do? I think at that point it was you had to be a certain membership level, which I, didn't. I just registered for whatever the free membership is, so I know with your email or whatever. But I kind of lucked out because I think they were doing a pre-Black Friday deal on the membership. So it was half the price or something. So it actually worked out great. I just had to buy a membership for my wife and I, but then they were like, well, you can buy the Chelsea tickets and the Palace tickets today. So I was kind of yes. Who cares? We're going, we already have our plane tickets and everything. I'm in, I don't really care how much it costs. In a way, once in a lifetime kind of thing. So, but yeah, I was trying to email them, or I think I even called the ticket office a couple more times, just kind of be like, hey, what do you think are the best sections? At Chelsea, do you think it's better to be in the lower tier or the upper tier, the shed end and all that? Yeah, they were definitely helpful, told me to go in the upper. I said, you have a better view and stuff. Our tickets for Chelsea were amazing. We were right in the corner, and we were in the first row of where the where the walkway broke, where you have the first 5 or 6 rows, and then there's a bit of a walkway where you would come out of the tunnel. So we were no one in front of us, so we had perfect view from the corner. It was really good. And then the Palace tickets we were in the section 6 or block 6. So we were right around, midfield, kind of up from the Palace bench, about halfway up. So totally different environments, I guess I would say, because obviously the away match, it's probably more like the Itchen North End, where everyone's, chanting and cheering and everything like that, rowdy. Mm-hmm. Whereas, the side of the pitch, section 6 was, a little more, I guess, not older crowd, but, probably more season ticket type of holders, where they're just kind of there to watch the game and, a little more serious about that part of it. But definitely both cool experiences and great views from both of them. So I would definitely, do that. But I think it's just a little bit of kind of what you're going for and what you're trying to experience.
Yeah. And I think, I'm not an expert on this by any means, but I'm pretty sure the tickets you had for Palace were probably more expensive than if you sit behind one of the goals or in the corner, so there's definitely a price. Some people will probably maybe priced out of those for buying them every match. But I'm interested in the Chelsea. We'll start with Chelsea and just the away day kind of experience, because you mentioned you normally watch matches on your own. I'm much the same way. Games kick off here at 4 a.m. on Saturdays. Nobody's coming over to watch that with me. That's just, you got to do that on your own. So for you, for that day, waking up and going to that match, how different was that day from your normal day? What did you do kind of leading up to that kickoff, and how did that feel, kind of getting ready to go see the team, that you flew over there for, kind of for the first time?
Yeah. I think I guess it was kind of, going to a sporting event here, in Tampa or at Florida State or something, where you're going to be there in person, so you're a little more jacked up. And I know you're a baseball guy too, so superstition and stuff. So I felt like I kind of laid my jersey out, on the bed and everything while I was getting ready, and all that, and making sure I wore definitely, after the Chelsea game when we went to Palace, then making sure I wore the same jeans and everything, kind of did the same routine, that Absolutely. Type of stuff. But yeah, I think it was just being a little more jacked up. I had messaged with Ray from in that number podcast a little bit too, just kind of ask him like what were his thoughts about Stamford Bridge, about getting there and getting a drink or anything, and he had never been there before. He was just kind of like, it could get a little rough around there. So, and I kind of, know just from how, away fans and stuff and pubs might not be accepting of you. I was like, well, we're not going to try to go down by Stamford Bridge and get anything. So, but we did go grab a couple beers, close to our hotel, at like a sports bar that was playing that, I think it was the Tottenham Brighton match that day. So we caught a little bit of that before we went on the train down to Stamford Bridge. But yeah, I mean, that was a cool experience too, just because, you kind of knew coming, from, or, being within London that it's probably going to be more Chelsea fans on the tube with us. So, I made sure that like my jacket, I kept that, zipped up and covering my jersey, and, my wife had like a bright red sweater on. So, trying to kind of stay out of view undercover, I guess.
I don't know. I was really worried about that. When we went and saw the match, or when I went and saw Saints play at West Ham, they had just stormed the pitch, thrown things at the director's box the match before. And so there was added police presence and things like that. And Freddie was as calm as ever. There were no worries whatsoever. And I was very much just a ball of nerves. Like the jet lag, like we landed on Friday and we went to the game on Saturday. So like jet lag and then the alcohol and everything, I was just a mess. But Freddie kind of kept me walk me through it. And then I just couldn't contain myself when I saw the pitch and heard the music and saw the guys like run out and break from the huddle. I was like, this is what I came for. It was a big, I don't know. It's a weird experience. It's hard to put into words a little bit, which is sad considering I'm asking you to do the exact same thing. So,
yeah, but like you were at West Ham, so like the only experience I have with them is like from that Green Street Hooligans movie with Elijah Wood.
Yeah,
you ever see that one? So yeah, that was always intense. That's kind of burned into your skull then too, of that kind of hooligan outfit of a black jacket, zipped up jeans, and white trainers. So you're just kind of keeping an eye out for those guys.
It was my first experience really ever being in another country. Like it was, we landed, we took the train, we got in an Uber, we went to the hotel, and then we basically went like down by the London Eye. So like we didn't walk far from the hotel. And so like my first experience on the tube was with Freddie going to West Ham. So I'm kind of entering into this world that I've never seen. I don't have any idea kind of where I am, or like everything was different. And then just kind of walking through, down the street and seeing all the buildings that are, I mean, they're buildings, but they're way different than what I have here around where I live. So they're just totally different and kind of an awe-inspiring experience, even though it's just, kind of just part of London. Like most people wouldn't think anything of it. So
yeah. I think it was cool when we got off that train, then, they kind of funnel you out one way, straight to the stadium, and we're passing a couple stands that, are selling scarves or programs or whatever. And then you're kind of just, walking through almost like a neighborhood. And then it's just like, all of a sudden, boom, to the left is this, 40,000 seat stadium that you didn't even know was there, when you're walking down the street. So it was kind of funny when we were walking up, because I had to collect our tickets from the ticket office there, because I think Saints they just ended up like sending them or put me on like the list to pick them up. But we ran into like some Chelsea, somebody that was working for Chelsea, and I was like, hey, where's the ticket office? And they're like, our home fans or whatever. And we're like, no way. And they were, a bit like taken aback that I think, we were Americans and here for Southampton, versus I'm sure Chelsea is just like, they get that quite a bit.
Yeah. Like, they're like, don't you know what team Christian Pulisic plays for? We're like, yeah.
Right.
We do. But yeah, no, I think that's awesome. And there are a couple of guys that do a podcast called the London is Blue podcast from the United States, and they are great. And they've they've been on this show before. Nick Verlaney has, and he's I don't know, like I have more respect for them, kind of talking to them about the team than I used to. I used to really hate Chelsea for no good reason. I still don't like them very much though, but it doesn't matter. I'm glad we beat them for more than one reason. But yeah, as you're kind of like getting there, for me, like one of the big things was like when I saw the pitch, and I like that, because when I went to West Ham, like we got in and we didn't have very much time to get in and get kind of settled, and I went to the restroom, and then as I kind of walked up to the seats, you kind of go, like you come out from underneath the stands that are over your head, and like then the sound kind of hits you, like you kind of like get engulfed by the sound as you exit through that corridor or whatever it is. And for me, that was a big like turning point, like not a turning point, but just one of those things that's when I knew I was there, you know. And I don't know, I guess at the same time, when I walked up at St. Mary's, I went up the steps after you go through the turnstile and everything. You go up the steps, and then you can see the pitch. And for me, like as I could see the pitch, and the crowd, once again, as you go up through that tunnel, kind of the noise starts to get to you and all that stuff. So did you have anything like that when you kind of got there, or were you there too early so the noise wasn't as loud yet? Or what was it like for you kind of seeing the pitch? Or what was there a moment that kind of let you know, like, hey, I'm here and this feels like an event now?
Yeah. I mean, I think we definitely got there a little early for the Chelsea game. I think, it was just kind of like we just wanted to get there and make sure we were in the right spot and get the tickets and everything. But yeah, I mean, going back to like going in and everything was, a different experience too, because obviously like being away things, you can just go in this one gate, and one turnstile, and then, we go up just this one set of stairs, and, even up there, like right outside the section, it was just like a couple bathrooms and then like the one concession that we can only go to. You can't get to like any other part of the stadium. It's just totally different here, where it's just completely wide open, all these stadiums that you can just walk around to whatever section. So that was a little bit different for sure. But yeah, I mean, I think, once we got up there and, I was having a beer when we were there, and, but like, kind of just peeking your head down the tunnel, to the seats to kind of see the pitch and, see all the blue seats of Chelsea and stuff. And that was pretty cool. And then, we went in there and saw some of the team warming up and everything. And I think, that's kind of when it started, the blood flowing a little bit more. And then, I mean, I think it was just, once the game started and kickoff and the fans starting, when the Saints go marching in, it's just like, all right, I'm here. This is it. This is insane,
Yeah. Isn't it kind of a different rule though, like from the United States, where you can't drink within sight of the pitch? Like, did you know that going over, and then was it a shock to you to hear that?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of knew that they had something like that where you couldn't drink, like during the game or whatever. But yeah, my wife she knew someone from her work that had recently gone to like a Spurs game over there, and she had kind of told her that like, yeah, everyone right when the kickoff happens, basically just throws out whatever beer they have, or, at halftime is the same way. Once they start playing again, they just go right back to their seats. And yeah, it is kind of weird. I mean, it's probably a good thing, it's probably something we probably need to adopt, because I feel like a lot of games are, here we can have a lot of rowdy fans and stuff, but yeah.
I've been to a couple of games in the middle of the summer. We went to a Fresno game, and there were people drinking beer because it was 107 degrees at kickoff. Kickoff was 7:30 at night. It was 107 degrees, 103 degrees. Like people are drinking beer, and they've been drinking beer all day. And then
yeah,
it can get messy, and it's not great. But yeah, I don't know. It was different to me because I don't drink beer that fast, and so it was like Freddie's like, all right, time to go, and I had like, half a beer left. He had 3/4 of beer, and I was like, oh, I have time. He has 3/4, and then all of a sudden it was gone, and I was like, oh man, I got to catch up. Like,
yeah,
so being prepared for that stuff, I think is good. I mean, going into the match, like, you're going to see the team you love and you want to be there to support them, and you're going to support them, but it's Chelsea. they had been in maybe the best of form, and we had been kind of we I think we talked, maybe it was before we got on, like we'd been hit and miss. Like we, would show up for a couple games, play really well, and then we kind of go and then we had the West Ham result, and then like we had other matches where we didn't really show up. So like what were your expectations for that match? Were you thinking we were just gonna, keep it tight and hope to hit them on the break, or what were your thoughts in terms of going into the match and your expectations for the team going in?
Yeah, I mean, I think, like we said, or like you said before we kind of started recording, we were talking a bit. I mean, I think going into this, we had beat Watford, we had beat Norwich, had kind of a slip up against Newcastle, and then just kind of a bad game against West Ham, and then we beat Villa, but it was kind of like, all right, yeah, we should have beat all those teams. So don't really know, what kind of Saints team's going to show up, but yeah, I mean, I think, I knew we always play a little bit better going away, but like I said, it is Chelsea, and I think it was just kind of like, hey, yeah, like you said, let's kind of just try to catch them on the break. Let's just kind of try to get a point out of this game, really. And I think, also seeing when the lineups came out, and Ings was on the bench, and it was kind of like, oh, okay, yeah, I figured we're kind of just punting away this match, and we're going to try to, win the Palace match on Saturday. So I did, though, in the back of my mind, and I wish I would have sent the text because I don't have a copy of, this draft or whatever saved, but I was texting either my brother or my dad, but I was saying that, Chelsea, had just played Spurs before our game, and then after, they were playing Arsenal on the weekend. So it was kind of like this set up like a possible trap game, like we would call here for like college football, or something where, you're playing like a little lower opponent and might overlook them because you're kind of already looking ahead to that next big game. So it might have just kind of lined up like that where they just didn't really take us serious. I don't know, but I'll take it, and I loved it.
Yeah, no, it was. I remember kind of thinking like that's the game. You would have said that's the game that we probably don't plan on winning, but you want to make sure you get points elsewhere. But then you look at the points we needed to get just because of the form we were in and other things, like, and all of a sudden it becomes much more important because you haven't gotten maybe all the points you needed to get elsewhere. So, but as you said, Ings on the bench, like, definitely looking towards Crystal Palace, that I thought that was okay. And that was probably the way it was always going to go. But then the team kind of, I don't know, that I want to say they surprised us, but they surprised us. They played so well. Everybody did the job they needed to do. I guess, I mean, you've seen professional soccer. I assume, and maybe I shouldn't assume, but had you seen professional soccer in person before?
Definitely not to like this, I guess, high
This
degree.
level.
Yeah,
Okay.
this level.
And I guess, as the team, everybody's doing their job and things like that. And the movement and stuff that we see on TV and the replays we get, obviously you don't get in the stadium, but how different was it seeing Saints perform kind of in person? And could you, are the same things that we see on TV that are pointed out to us maybe by the commentators, are those things also noticeable to, when you're in the ground, or was it a lot harder to watch because of the angle you were at, or what was it like seeing the team live versus seeing them on TV each and every week?
Yeah, I think that's probably the biggest, change was seeing it in person and just, I guess, seeing like how big the field really is and how much space there is. And, but yeah, I think seeing it in person, you definitely see a lot more than we're able to see just in the televised coverage, where, you see a little bit more of the tactics in action. And, I think, a little bit more when we were at the Palace game, we were closer to the sideline, being able to see Ralph, stepping up to the touchline to kind of talk to the guys, or, changing a couple things around. Like I think in that game, like early on, I think he flipped like, I think it was Redmond and Buffal, like kind of switching them around on which wing they were playing on and stuff like that. And just kind of seeing that part of it, was definitely, it was cool to see that bit.
Yeah. I noticed that one, as you mentioned, the pitch is it's so big. It's so much wider, especially than it looks, on television. And there is a lot of space, but also how fast that space gets closed off. My thing is always how hard they're kicking the ball to pass it between the center backs or from the center back to the fullback, like how fast that ball is traveling and how every single person, all 22 guys on the field, can just kill the ball and keep it super close to them. Whereas, except for Shane Long. But that quality. I think sometimes I zoom in on just watching one guy play for a couple of minutes and just the constant, everybody's constantly looking over their shoulder and checking over their shoulder and trying to move and find space. And it's this whole thing that like, I guess I know a lot of those things that happen for baseball because that's what I played growing up and all the way like through high school and into college. And so you kind of pick up all of those things, but then watching another sport where you're maybe not as familiar with it, like all of those things become, I think to me, so much more interesting. And I want to learn, all about what they do and why they do it and all that stuff. So I think when I saw them in person, I think that's what I came away with a lot is there was a lot of things you just don't see on the television because it's the television's following the ball and a lot of the stuff happens off the ball and you just don't get to see it.
Yeah. I think you made a good point about, trying to just kind of zero in on one player for a few minutes. That was something I was telling my wife. She's not the biggest soccer fan or whatever, but she, watches some games with me and will put up with it because it's something I love, but,
sure.
Even in that Chelsea match and, he isn't on our team, but I was like, hey, if there's one person you're going to watch, like in the middle, just watch Conte, number 7 there. Like he's probably one of the best guys out there right now and just watch him move and where he's covering and everything.
Yeah. It is nice just to watch people who are really good at their craft play,
Yeah.
I guess kind of going through the match, what was the atmosphere like in the away end, especially because, we were ahead, we were playing well, we were kind of, I don't want to say dominating the game because Chelsea were there too, but like we forced Chelsea to adapt to us a little bit more than I think we've seen us do in a while. And what was the atmosphere like and the mood like, I guess, in the away end?
Yeah, the atmosphere was nuts. They were chanting pretty much the entire game. But yeah, I think like you said, we were kind of dictating some things at times. Like I felt like Stevens and Bednar like were just cutting off like every pass like that was coming their way and stuff. And I think that was just like such a big part of that. I think we were doing some time wasting and stuff like that at times with getting the ball back in and everything, but that's just kind of how we have to play sometimes against a bigger team. And it's kind of funny because it does get under their skin and you can see how it can affect them and affect their fans. But I think that kind of leads to them maybe making a slip up or something.
Yeah, and obviously we had a couple of goals in the match that were great. You saw a piece of individual skill, maybe from Obafemi to cut in and curl that ball into the corner that I'm not quite sure I thought he had. I also thought the team did very well to win the ball, to press and win the ball back and then play the pass through to him. I thought that was wonderful. And then you saw maybe the best goal that the team has scored all season. I think if I was going to choose goal of the season right now, it would be this Redmond's goal because I like team goals. I don't like the strike that only goes in once every 100 times. I like goals from open play. I have very specific criteria, which maybe is not fair to everybody else, but I don't care because it's my criteria. So, for you, getting to see those goals were those, what was your reaction as the goals happened? And at any point when did you know that Obafemi was going to score that? In, I guess, was the ball already in the net before you figured that out, or were you kind of believed it, or did it always look like he was going to score?
Yeah, that one was pretty nuts. That happened at the goal was on the other end from where we were at, but that pressing play, happened at the sideline. I guess it was closest to our corner or whatever. So you kind of got to see that that press or the play come back and then kind of kick it up to Obafemi. And I think I didn't even know if the ball was going to get all the way to him. And then I think just that first touch and turn he made was just And then I think you kind of started getting on the edge of your seat then. And then when he made that cut in, and then you're just like, yeah, like, I mean, he was, we could definitely, that was like right in, he was running, right in front of us, in the same like eye path that we had, So I think like once he cut in and you just saw the gaping goal there, and I don't know where that, left-footed shot came from and stuff. And then, I mean, I think the guy next to me was even like, where did that come from? And we were just like, yeah, from nothing. I don't know, like we pressed him, we made a good play there and he kicked it up and it was just boom, like we just kind of struck him right in the jaw, I guess.
Yeah. I think my favorite part of the entire match was probably Bertrand getting a yellow card for time wasting, like back in the 30th minute.
Yeah.
That I find that to be hilarious. But we go into halftime up 1-0. We come back and Chelsea makes some changes. I think Mason Mount comes on the pitch and they try to do some things, and they start pretty brightly in the second half, much better than they were in the first. But I don't think we were ever really troubled. I think Saints were playing so well during this point. And then, eventually, we get the second goal, and I guess, I think for us, it was from a throw-in, I think, that we kept the ball, and then it was, 15 or so passes or something, 22 passes or something like that we wound up scoring. And for you getting to see that play, I mean, was it, how did it ever feel like we were going forward, or did it just feel like we were just passing the ball around, or what was your thoughts as it was happening?
Yeah, and I mean, I think to go back a little bit, like you were saying, like at halftime they made some changes. Mason Mount came on, that was a funny part of, I think it was in the first half or close to halftime when he was warming up. The Saints fans, made sure to call some chants out to him about being a skate, or being from Pompey. So that was pretty funny to hear that. But yeah, I mean, I think then, going into the second half, I think they had a chance or two, like right off the bat. I mean, I think even at halftime, my phone was blowing up because obviously like that game was on the main like NBC Sports channel here, and some of my friends or whatever knew that I was here, or there. I mean, so they were, blowing me up like, oh my God, your team's winning, all this stuff. And I'm just like, yeah, pump the brakes, guys. Like, this is going to be a long second half, like we don't always hold on to these leads and stuff. So, I think, at that point it was just kind of like, yeah, let's just try to hold on. If it ends 1-1, then that's fine. We got our point, that's expected. But yeah, I think the second half then, started kind of off to a bang for them, and you're kind of like, oh no, here it comes, like you kind of start feeling the Saints, what's going to happen to us like usual. But yeah, then I mean, we kind of bounced back from that. We had a couple chances. I know before, like a little bit before we had that, great team goal. I think it was like the 65th minute, Redmond had like a wide open, like kind of one-on-one chance.
Yeah.
And it was just like, and that was right at our goal end was right there. And it was just like, I kicked it like, right to the keeper, and it was just like, I told the guy next to me, I was like, he really needed that, he's just been like lacking confidence all season, and he had that just one-on-one, that was his chance to just pop it in there. But yeah, then like you said, it wasn't much longer after that. It was like only 7 or 8 minutes later, they kind of had that. And I probably just figured, we're just kind of recycling the ball around. We want to just keep the ball, keep possession, hold on to this lead. But yeah, then it was kind of like Armstrong kind of made that little run, and it was like, I don't know if he was going to get to that ball, and then he kind of chipped it up, and it was like falling to Redmond there, and you're like, I don't know if he's going to be able to get to that ball, and then somehow he, gets his toe on it and puts that one in, and you're kind of just like in disbelief because, like I said, he just kind of missed that open one-on-one one a second ago, and that one went in. But I think that was just like an eruption, and when that happened, that was just crazy. And then he ran, to the corner there, and everyone was just going nuts and jumping around, and it was like, all right, 2-0, like we got this now, like with how our defense had been playing, just so locked down. It was kind of felt like, all right, but you knew it was going to be a long rest of that game, 15 minutes or whatever was left.
It felt like forever. But it was so great to get to walk out of there with 3 points, because it was just something that we maybe didn't. I mean, we didn't really expect it. I think it's safe to say, and I don't think that's I think it's wrong of us to say that or feel that way. It just is what it is. But I mean, leaving there with 3 points, obviously you have to be satisfied with all of that. And it's the first away day done. Good seats, good atmosphere, a good match from the team, and then of course the 2 goals that were equally good. So I imagine you would have left there feeling pretty, with a good overall first impression and feeling pretty positive about the team and also about your kind of the trip to that point. Yes.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, towards the end of the game, as, the Chelsea fans were getting, just not making any noise, like they kind of hadn't been the whole game, but it was funny just hearing some of the other chants, from the Saints fans of just, like your stadium's full of tourists and stuff like that. And I was cracking up, which was kind of, a bit, I guess, ironic because I was one of the tourists that's there, but yeah, it was funny to hear that. And then obviously, like with a few minutes left in the match when it was, pretty much sealed, or whatever at that point, and the fans are getting up and leaving, they start chanting, like, "Is there a fire drill?" Something like that.
Yeah.
So that was pretty funny. And then they after the game, even then we got to see, Hasenhüttl come over and, do his thing and everyone cheering for that. And then they even had, like a couple kind of Christmas themed songs where they were, singing like jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to see Southampton win away.
Yeah.
That was pretty cool. And then like they did like last Christmas. So, last Christmas they gave you my heart. The very next day you gave it away. This year, to save me from tears, I'll give you a Hasenhüttl. That was like pretty awesome too.
Yeah.
So that was nuts. Yeah, coming out of that stadium, that was pretty wild. And again, like the train ride home, at that point it was pretty packed, with Chelsea fans, and they were all kind of on their phones, looking back through the stats, and I think just kind of reading through those, and I'm just like a little upset about the game, but
Sure.
I honestly didn't like think they were like, I guess, as mad as I expected them to be, but I kind of feel like it's just kind of how the table is right now, where it's like they're kind of just fighting for fourth, I guess, and if they can get back on track and fight for that, they're fine with it, kind of thing.
Yeah, it is, kind of weird, because I think, especially being a baseball fan, the season's so long that if you lose a game, you lose a game and you move on, and it happens. But sometimes with football, I think our fan base, especially, and maybe Twitter's a bad example, because that's where I get, most of the feedback, most of the reaction is on social media, and maybe that's not a true indication of how everybody feels. But, on Twitter, after a loss, people are upset. It doesn't matter how we lose or who we lose to. People are always upset, and you kind of expect people to be that way if they lose a match. And I remember when we lost to West Ham, a lot of fans were super upset. A lot of fans left early but that was just because we played so poorly at that time. It was Mark Hughes' first match in charge. It was not great. But yeah, I guess I kind of understand that not everybody's that upset, but it doesn't, and they're still like pretty clear, and they're still 5 points clear in fourth place at this point, as we talk, in January. So it's okay for them, I guess. But let's jump to the next match, because I don't want to keep you too long, because you did get to see a home match as well. So now you're leaving London. You're going down to Southampton. I imagine you took a train down there. You didn't drive, did you?
No. Although I did hear, some people saying to take just take a coach, take a bus down there. But we just ended up doing the Southwestern Rail line from Waterloo to Southampton.
Been there, done that. Did you take the one? Did you save some money and take the one that stops everywhere, or did you go the direct line?
We did. I think it was the direct one. I think it maybe stopped like one place.
Yeah, like once or twice, maybe.
Yeah, but yeah, it was pretty much direct.
On the way back, we took I think the one that stopped all the time, and it took a lot longer. But I had 4 tickets to buy, so I was willing to just sit there and play cards with the kids. It was fine. So I mean, what was that like? Because we don't have public transit where I live. So this was all brand new to me,
Right.
So what was it like going into Waterloo and having all of that to deal with?
Yeah, I mean, I think at that point, we had been in London for pretty much, almost like a full week then, because we had got in on Monday. But so we were a little used, I think pretty comfortable, I guess, with the tube at that point, which I freaking love. Like, if we could have anything close to that here, it would be amazing. Because I mean, with like some of the apps and stuff nowadays, it was just super easy to get around and figure out which lines to take and everything. But yeah, I mean, I think we did ask like one person there, like, hey, what platform do we need to be going to? Is this the right ticket? And when we had initially bought the tickets, I think I had bought one that maybe we were leaving around like 11 o'clock or something to get down to Southampton then at like 12:30 or something for the 3 o'clock game. But I was just like, hey, let's just get there early. Like, I'm not sure how crazy this is going to be or anything like that. So I think we even got on like the 10 o'clock or the one that left a little bit after 10. So we got to Southampton even earlier. But yeah, I mean, that train ride down was fun. I mean, it wasn't too long or anything like crazy like that. Like I said, I'm kind of used to a 4-hour drive up to Tallahassee or something for a football game. So
yeah,
Florida's huge for, it takes us an hour and a half to get over to Disney in Orlando. So like, it's not, nothing like that. It's too crazy to us. But I think what was different about those was, or like that train ride was, on the tube around London, like you can't really like drink or anything on those trains. But on these ones, like people were bringing like a bag of beer or something on, or they had, like a 6-pack or a 4-pack of tall boys, and we're drinking one and holding the rest, through like the little plastic, the thing that like ducks get their head stuck in, or whatever I'm talking about. So yeah, so it was kind of funny, like people were pounding those, and a couple rows away from us, some football fan, I don't even know what game he was going to, but it was just like, F this, F that, like every other word talking about whatever games or teams he was talking about. So that was kind of funny to hear all that. And then I think even when we got to Southampton, there was like a pretty decent sized group of like Palace fans they must have been riding in another coach or something, but they had got off around the same time. So they all seemed like they were, well on their way to being tuned up for the game too. And they kind of had that typical, I guess stereotypical hooligan kind of look to them, I guess. Not that I think that every English fan is a hooligan. I know I've mentioned this a couple times, but they did have that the black jacket, jeans, and white trainers. So I'm like, all right, yeah, let's not be too outward with what we're here for, and we're on the London train too. So, but yeah, they seemed like they were fine. They were just walking to their next bar or whatever they were going to. But yeah, I mean, once we got to Southampton, I was just kind of going straight for the bar that I was going to meet the in that number guys at. So we were meeting at the Standing Order, it was called. So
yeah, so you roll into Southampton Central and you start making your way towards the towards the stadium. And I think there's a big IKEA right there around there.
Yeah.
And so as you make your way up, and you're going to meet Ray and Kevin, I assume.
Yeah. So Kevin was in town for the holidays, and he was in town with his wife and his brother-in-law.
And then, so where is the Standing Order in terms of from Southampton Central to, and I imagine a lot of the listeners will already know this, but
yeah.
I don't, so
yeah, I mean, I guess it's somewhere in the middle. I was just kind of popping it in my Google Maps or whatever, and just like, hey, all right, we got to go this way, But yeah, so we just ended up there, and we got there like a decent amount earlier than they were there. So, so we just kind of grabbed a couple drinks and we're hanging out. But it was, definitely cool to see, a whole bar full of people in Saints gear and stuff, and so we were just kind of hanging out. Like, I didn't know really if they were there or not. And we were just kind of, making a couple rounds of the room to see if I saw them. And then there was like this like older guy that was there, just had like a little high top table by himself, like right next to the bar. And at one point we were just kind of like standing around across the room from him, and I look over and he just kind of like waves me over, and I'm like, I told my wife, like, oh God, what does this guy like want from me, or whatever. And then so he was like, hey, he's like, I'm about to leave here, but he's like, you guys can just take over this table. He's like, it looked like you guys needed one. I was like, oh, great.
Nice.
Like we met this guy, from Southampton there. His name was like Dave or David, but like funny enough, he had like recently went on a cruise with his wife, like all the way from Southampton to like New York, and then they ended up flying back. But so like it was like really cool talking to him. We ended up having like a connection where he had some family in Maine. My wife had some family in Maine. So like he was in the Navy. My wife's grandfather was in the Navy. Like there was a lot of like cool little bonding things we were talking about and everything like that. So he was a super cool dude. And then, we kind of ended up taking over his table. And once he was walking out, like Ray and Kevin and all of them were coming in. So it worked out like perfect.
Awesome.
Like after the fact, we were kind of like, was that guy like real, or was he like a guardian angel kind of thing or something? Or like, I don't know if that guy was a real person or not. Like, we had just watched like It's a Wonderful Life, around the Christmas holidays. So it was kind of like this guy.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, so those guys were great though when we met up with Ray and Kevin.
And then I guess did you go with Ray and Kevin to the ground then, or did you kind of part ways with them and you and your wife went on your own, or what happened there?
Yeah. So I mean, I had told them like, hey, we still need to get our tickets. I kind of wanted to see the stadium. If I could go into the store before or something, that would be great. But yeah, I mean, we were just kind of having a good time. So we were enjoying a couple more pints and stuff. And I was kind of like, hey, as long as we get there, in time for the game, I'm fine. But yeah, we ended up walking, all of our group together over there, and then they kind of showed me the front of the stadium, it says, St. Mary's Stadium. She pointed out, the Ted Bates statue, Ray pointed me right over where the ticket office was. So like all that was great. And then, they kind of headed to their seats in the Itchen North End. And then, we kind of just agreed to, hey, let's meet back up with the statue after the match, and we'll go get a couple more drinks.
Awesome. And then, of course, we didn't take all 3 points from that game, but and this is the game. I'll be honest, I think I had a harder time kind of focusing on this one because there was so much going on, just in a whirlwind kind of couple of days,
Yeah.
So, but I mean, we still managed a point. But what was your kind of take on this game compared to the Chelsea game? What was the biggest kind of difference from, seeing the team perform just a couple of days before to what you saw this time?
Yeah, I mean, I think you could definitely see, the toll that playing, 2 games so close together, within a span of a couple of days can really take on the team and their fitness and everything like that.
And I guess when you were walking into the stadium, did you get to see the store and stuff at the beginning of the game, or did you just have to go straight to your seats?
Yeah, we pretty much we just had to go straight to our seats at that point, which was fine. I mean, we ended up running over to the store right after the game, but yeah, I mean, we pretty much went straight to our seats, and caught the start of the game and all that, so we were still fine. But
for you, having seen Stamford Bridge and now St. Mary's, like, what was the biggest difference between the two stadiums? Was there a recognizable difference, like the way the stadium felt to you, or did it feel kind of similar, or what was your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think you could definitely tell, that St. Mary's is like, a newer stadium. I guess like Stamford Bridge is, I feel like a little more like vertical, where St. Mary's is a little more like a bowl. Like it almost, kind of just reminded me a lot of like, I guess, any type of like stadium here in the States, where, if we were going to build like a new soccer stadium here, I feel like it would look a lot like St. Mary's, which I don't think is, a bad thing, because there is not like a bad seat, I don't think, in the stadium.
Right.
Where, Stamford Bridge, there's probably, similar to like Wrigley Field here or Fenway Park, like you're going to have little weird things about the stadium where you might have an obstructed view or something, or not be able to have the best view, but it's kind of like the character of it, over the newness. Like you kind of have to, I guess you're trying to, seesaw that type of thing with the fans and everything.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you're a little bit further away from the stadium or from the pitch. I mean, so, I guess like, it would be nice to see, because obviously I didn't support the team when like they were in the Dell, but like, just see like some YouTube clips of it. But yeah, I mean, I think that would be a little bit more where you're like on top of the pitch, like right there with the players, and they can, hear you screaming a little bit more and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, I definitely love, like St. Mary's and everything like that too.
Yeah, I would say that St. Mary's, I guess, there's a definite template to it. It definitely fits into that. It looks like a lot of other stadiums that were built around that time, whereas it doesn't quite have the feel of some of the other places I would imagine they go at some of the older stadiums. Like I don't have a problem admitting this, but like I wanted to at some point get to the old White Hart Lane before it was gone. Because I look at some of those places that are, Loftus Road, even where Queens Park Rangers play, they're just you're right on top of the pitch, and I would like to experience that just once or twice as a fan, and it is times change and stadiums are built and things change and styles come in and out, so not complaining about what we have, but it's definitely a little bit different. But I mean, I guess we're not going to walk through the whole Palace game, but I mean, to you, what were some moments that kind of stood out to you that maybe left an impression on you about maybe the stadium or that match in particular, or specific player, maybe your chance or anything that just kind of stood out to you from your first experience at St. Mary's?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think playing Palace, I feel like, even watching them on TV over here, like, that their fans are like super into it, and you can always hear them like chanting and everything. So I think they had, some very dedicated fans that seemed like that, were standing and screaming and yelling pretty much the whole time. But, obviously the Itchen North did a great job of, combating with them and drowning them out. So yeah, I think, again, like hearing, when the Saints go marching in St. Mary's, in your home had, a little special ring to it. But yeah, I mean, as far as within the game itself, we got to see, a VAR decision go for us. So, we got to hear the VAR, it was one of our own chant and everything like that. That was when, earlier in the game too, like right at the start, Hoiberg had like his whole shirt practically ripped off too. That was an interesting thing. Never seen that before. But yeah, I mean, then we, Danny Ings was playing, so we got to see a Danny Ings goal, which was, great to keep his streak going, everything like that. And again, kind of off of the press, off of, a mistake by Palace. But I think that's just kind of going to be a result of, how Ralph wants the guys to play. I mean, I feel like we've kind of been seeing it all year almost in a way. I felt like kind of at the beginning of the season, it was like, almost seemed like all of our goals were coming from that, like weird little mistakes by the team. Like Ings had that goal against Tottenham where like Lloris, I don't even know what the heck he was doing in goal that day. Or I think he had another one against like Wolves where maybe they made a mistake when we played them and stuff. But yeah, I mean, I think it's just part of our pressing style. And I was kind of thinking, like, I don't know if it's, maybe teams kind of underestimate us when it comes to the press or something. Like maybe they don't think we're going to be as good as it as some of the bigger teams, like when they play Liverpool or City or, Spurs under Pochettino, like maybe they wouldn't make that back pass like Palace did, and maybe they would have just booted it out, they don't expect us, I guess, at this point to have that pressing style and the speed to get to that. So they kind of underestimate us in a bit. I don't know. I mean, sure someone can look into that and probably prove that completely wrong or debunk that theory, but I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think sometimes they think, obviously when Liverpool or City press you, their players are of a higher quality across the board. So they are probably going to be better at that particular job in and of itself. And just that kind of togetherness that we don't always have and didn't always possess. But when we do it the right way, and it seems like, since the last international break, we've been a lot better at it, and when we are doing it, I guess, better. We're just overall performing a lot better, and the team has been a lot more together, and everybody's fulfilled that role. And when everybody does their job, you wind up forcing people to make mistakes. And even going back to the Obafemi goal, the pressing, helped to win the ball back in a spot where Chelsea were out of position, and we were able to score from it. So it still takes some individual skill, obviously. Obafemi had a lot to do, but Ings, was confident enough just to finish it first time. Which I thought was great.
Yeah, I mean, I think when you saw that, the ball was going to be right in his path. It was, at that point, it's kind of like it's automatic. Like, Ings is just on fire right now. He's confident. Like you said, he takes it first time. Like, he just knew he has that chance right there. He's putting it in. And I think, from that, then I don't think you can talk about this game and not talk about Djenepo's impact, because once he came on and stuff, that was just like a game changer on the left side up there. He was just like causing so many problems for Palace.
Yeah, and I think Southampton played a lot better than Palace did that game, but especially we didn't really look like we were coming back into it until I think Djenepo came on the pitch, and he was a real joy to watch. But I remember looking at this game, the Palace's XG for that game was 0.14. Whereas ours was 1.48. So we should have scored a goal and a half. They should have scored, just more than a tenth of a goal. So it just shows. I mean, they were ahead, sure, but they were not at all that better than us on the day. So just the way it goes sometimes, I guess.
Yeah, because I mean, I guess it was just like even their goal they scored. It was off of that free kick, I think, and it was a nice little feed from whoever took it. But like, yeah, it was just, I think it was close to right after coming out of the half, so it was kind of like, I don't know if we were just kind of still getting like the dust off of us from resting a little bit or what. I mean, Stevens just looked like he was just a little too slow to get there or something, and it was just sometimes that just happens. That's like, sometimes it feels like that last 5 minutes of the first 5 minutes of the second half can be like some of the most important times to just stay focused,
Yeah, it was a Tompkins header from a Milivojevic delivery from the set piece, but I'm pretty sure I said his name wrong, but that's all right. I guess just to wrap this up, because I told you 35, 40 minutes, and here we are, an hour and 20, so I apologize. Keeping you up forever. But I guess the trip itself, obviously a success. 4 points from 2 matches, you'll take it. 2 different grounds. I think all good things. But for anybody else from the United States, maybe that's going to go over to England and see the team or attempt to see the team, I guess do you have any advice for them as they get over there and things to watch out for that maybe we're just not aware of as Americans, or people, maybe just people from outside the UK, not just Americans, because there are fans, of course, all over the world?
Yeah, I mean, I think, do your research about the tickets. Like, I had, no idea going in about that. The tickets normally seem like they go on sale about a month out from the match. So looking into that stuff, but I mean, I felt like the Saints ticket office was super responsive when I sent, either sent them emails or tried to give them a call. I took the train down. I know other people that have taken the bus down from London, but I felt like the train was super easy. I think even the tickets we got were, I think, like an open, return for that, same day or whatever. So like it didn't really matter what time we got back to Southampton Central train station. So like, after the game, I met back up with the in that number guys, and we even met up with Freddie from the Wrigley inside and stopped at a couple other places to have a couple more drinks. But like, it was nice, knowing that like, hey, as long as there's a train going out, we can get back to London. So that was one nice part about that. So I think taking the train was maybe a little bit better for us. But yeah, I mean, I think in general, just, reaching out to this like Saints FC Twitter family and stuff was awesome. Like, I know I I sent out a message maybe a couple weeks before, a week before, and tagged a bunch of you guys, and I got some traction and retweets and stuff. And, whether it was the podcast guys or just random other people, saying, glad to have you, have fun at the game, any questions, blah, blah, blah. And, it's a tight-knit group that we have here. So, use it and they can help you out or meet up with you. And everyone that I met was like super generous and happy for us to be there and happy to hear our story, how we became Saints fans. Just happy that we were there, and to just be for these outsiders that somehow found this little team and, like it, maybe not as much as they do from growing up there, or we can't, match their intensity, but yeah, it has a special place in our hearts and, too. So I think all that was really cool.
Yeah. And I can say that Twitter's not always the nicest place. It can be a bit of a mess.
Definitely.
But there are good uses for it. And, I would say that for the most part, most of the fans that support Southampton are pretty accepting of people that are coming over to see the team, that support the team. And it would be maybe a little bit difficult to accept somebody because you're not supporting a team like Man United or Arsenal who have a reputation of having overseas fans and, basically a stadium full of tourists, and so when somebody, maybe there's a little bit of suspicion sometimes when somebody says, yeah, I support Southampton and I'm from California or Florida or Wisconsin or whatever. But I would say most of the people are, as long as you support the team and you can show that, then they're going to be accepting of you and want you to have a good time. And I think you saw that. I think you witnessed that from the guy at the table in the bar to Ray and Kevin and everybody meeting you and Freddie meeting you up afterward and taking care of that. So I think that's all the good stuff that happens with the people. And I can say that from my experience with people over there, it was wonderful. It was wonderful just to be around. And I was at a miserable, horrible game where people were upset and they were still super nice to me. So I'm super glad you guys had a good time. And I'm glad you guys got some results. You might have to go back. If we start tanking it, you're going to have to make more trips.
Yeah, definitely. I'm all for it.
I won't go with you because I don't know if that'll kill it or not. But one time we'll have to make sure it happens.
Yeah, we need to coordinate something for sure.
And I guess, as the people were generous, I just want to say thank you to you again, because you were very generous with your time with me here tonight. It was a pleasure to talk to you about all of this. And I had personal questions answered. And I'd just like to hear the stories that other people have going to support the team and kind of getting to relive that through you and your story, because it is something that, as a fan from California, it's only ever happened once for me. I've only ever gotten to see the team one time. And the idea is to go back as much as I can, but as a father and a husband and with children and everything else, there are things that prevent us from just hopping over there for the matches. So it's nice to be able to relive it a little bit through you. So I appreciate you taking the time to do that.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you. Thank you for having me, giving me this opportunity. Hopefully, meet some more of the Saints FC family, on Twitter or Instagram or whatever. Hopefully, we can ride out this season and hopefully finish with like a top 10 position.
I want to say thanks again, and we'll be sure to have you on. And if people want to follow you on Twitter, they can do that. You're on Twitter and Instagram at Curt Supple. Of course, links are in the show notes. So people should give you a follow, and we'll do this again.
Yeah, sweet. Thanks, Matt.
That does it for this week's episode of the Southampton Delivery Podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. I hope that you've enjoyed it. Special thanks this week goes out to Curt Supple. Curt, thank you for taking the time to share the details of your trip with us. I hope that you enjoyed the conversation as much as I did. And if anybody wants to follow Curt on Twitter or Instagram, he is at Curt Supple. There are links in the show notes, so you can go find him. And don't forget also about the second annual U.S. of Southampton FC event happening April 4th, 9 a.m., Fado's Irish Pub in downtown Chicago. Make your way there. Get on the Facebook page if you have Facebook, and RSVP. Let them know you're coming so they know how much to plan for. etc., etc. And like I said at the top of the show, it's something to be excited about in a week where Saints really didn't do all that much. But also good news, Liverpool lost. So there's that. If you're enjoying this show and like to follow along on social media, you can do that. We are at SFCDELL_IVERY on both Twitter and Instagram. We're also on Facebook at facebook.com/SFCDelivery. There's no underscore in the Facebook address. The easiest way to get that and much more is to go to the website, southamptondelivery.com. There you can find links to listen to the show on a number of audio platforms, as well as sign up for the newsletter that comes out each and every Friday. Stop by. Take a look. Let us know what you think. I would really appreciate that. The show would not be possible without the partners of the show. You can follow the Southampton page at Southampton Page 1 on Instagram and at Southampton Page on Twitter. Matt Mealing of the We Are Southampton page on Instagram does the logo for the show. Special thanks to him for taking the time to do that. And all music for the show comes courtesy of the Free Music Archive at freemusicarchive.org. The intro song is Epic Song by Boxcat Games, and the end of show credits that you're listening to right now is Aim is True by Poddington Bear. We'll be back next week. Hopefully Saints are able to take 3 points from Newcastle. And until then, remember that together, we march on. Also, if you didn't know, in San Francisco, there's an app for pooping on the street. You're supposed to take a picture of it with Snapcrap. That's the name of the app. And then it tells the city where to clean up. It's a real thing I learned this weekend, because either we win or we learn. And I don't feel like I won having watched a guy actually defecate on the street. So I learned. I think we're done here.